I'd like to call to order the Township of Wainfleet Council meeting of June 2nd, 2020, and I'll do the land acknowledgement statement. We'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. Is there any disclosure of interest of general nature thereof? Okay, seeing none. The mayor's remarks are very lean. Please note our meeting today is broadcast live. However, only our council and staff are visible to the public, and we will also be sharing and recording of this meeting to our website. Police Services Board and Regional Council will meet on Thursday, June 25th at 8:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. respectively. And our next regular meeting of council is scheduled for Tuesday, June the 23rd at 7 p.m. Our emergency control group continues to meet regularly through the week to review the status of COVID-19 and to guide the township through the process to the eventual recovery phase. We continue to take our lead from provincial and regional experts and ask that as the summer weather approaches, you remain diligent in helping to stop the spread. Now's not the time to let up. And are there any councillor remarks? Councilor Cridland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Just a couple of them. The NPCA's next regular scheduled board meeting is Thursday, June 18th. I'd also like to acknowledge that the Pride Niagara 2020 is kicked off. It's Pride Week as of June 1, and there's a nice video that includes all the municipalities across Niagara that are participating in its first virtual opening. Also, I wouldn't mind just adding to your comments about a personal thank you to everyone doing everything they can during COVID to keep our entire community safe. And a special acknowledgement, since our last meeting, it's public that the Wainfleet Fall Fair and Marshville Festival folks have had to make a very tough call a few weeks ago, and we will all miss these very cherished events, but look forward to 2021. Thank you.
And just to add on to the other two events that are canceled, the Volkswagen Festival has also announced that they are canceling this year as well. So all the events that were going to take place this year in Wainfleet are now canceled. Okay, we'll look to the previous minutes, and we'll go to minutes of May the 12th. Any omissions or errors in there? Okay, I make a motion then that the minutes of the meeting of council held May 12, 2020 be adopted as circulated. And a mover, seconder, Councilor VanVleet and Councilor MacLellan. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. I guess I got to do it this way. Councilor VanVleet.
In favor.
Councilor MacLellan.
In favor.
Councilor Cridland.
In favor.
And Councilor Gilmore.
In favor.
Okay, and that is carried. Then the other minutes are the minutes of May 14th, and make a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 14th, 2020 be adopted as circulated. Mover, seconder, please. Councilor MacLellan moves it, seconded by Councilor Cridland. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, recorded vote. Councilor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councilor Cridland.
In favor.
Councilor MacLellan.
In favor.
And Councilor VanVleet.
In favor.
Okay, and those minutes are carried. Okay, we have no public meetings this evening. There's no delegations. And so we'll move right into staff reports. And we're going to look at ASR 17-2020 property tax rates. And I'll ask Ms. Luey to give a brief overview of her report, please.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So this is a routine report to officially approve the tax rates prior to generating our final tax billing. So just for a refresher to all residents, that the municipal tax rate calculation is based on the total assessed value as determined by MPAC for all classes. The tax ratios that are approved by the region, because we're dictated by our upper tier, in their tax policy, as well as our total approved tax levy budgeted amount. So the tax rates are developed based on essentially working backwards to ensure that we can raise the amount that we had approved as being funded from the tax levy. So just to remind everyone, the municipal rate and budget is only a portion of the amount we collect, as we do the collections for the region as well as the school board, and we remit the taxes to them based on their approved rates, which are independent of ours. So MPAC and the region have some useful resources in helping residents to understand where their tax dollars go, as well as how taxes are calculated, which we will be happy to share on our website in the coming days, so residents can kind of use that tool and click around if they want to understand further where their tax dollars are allocated, as well as kind of how they're calculated. There's some useful videos.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation from staff is that ASR 17-2020 be received, and that council consider the bylaw attached to this report as Appendix A to provide for final property tax rates for the 2020 taxation year at the June 2nd, 2020 regular meeting. Have a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councilor Cridland and Councilor MacLellan, and discussion, please. Okay, Councilor Cridland.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Maybe just a general comment from the treasurer. The chart on the back shows that our percentage then, I think it's changed. It's a 44% from the region and a 44% now from the municipality. Maybe you could just comment again. I think you probably covered it in the beginning, but residents can expect that to change because again, that's the whole basket of taxes. So if you could just add a few more comments about that, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Cridland. So yeah, these numbers do tend to fluctuate a little bit, usually only within a percentage point, and it's based on what the levies are each year. So if ours, it's based on what the tax rates are, which, I mean, the region approves their own, as mentioned. The educational rates are set from the province, which we get dictated those rates, which we just collect on behalf of them. And then based on what our levy increases, then the percentage of the taxes, it's usually, this is rounded, so it's usually within decimal points that we fluctuate.
Thank you.
Okay, so just also as well, just to reach out to the residents that our rate of regular payment on taxes has been very good. Everybody's been coming in and paying their taxes on time. If you do need some help, you are having some difficulties, please phone into the township and ask to speak to our treasurer. We want to work with anyone who has any issues, and that's really an important part of looking after the residents of the township here. So again, if you're having problems, please don't sit there, phone us, and we can sit down with you and see what we can do to make life a little bit easier for you or work things out. So, okay, any other discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote then. Councilor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councilor Cridland.
In favor?
Councilor MacLellan.
In favor.
And Councilor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Thank you, that's carried. And we now go to ASR 18-2020 COVID financial impact report. And again, we'll look to our treasurer, Ms. Luey, to give a brief overview of that, please.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So this report was prepared to provide a high-level update of financial implications, predominantly unbudgeted items to council. The finance department will be forthcoming with a budget variance report on all accounts in the coming months. which will show any kind of savings or overages in our regularly budgeted account items. But this report is designed to outline items that have not been budgeted for and could not have been predicted at budget time. I would like to note staff wages and benefits have been included in this calculation, as they have been reported to the province in line with regional reporting requirements. Although we do fully budget for staff wages and benefits, in 2020, we are closely tracking staff time that can be definitively attributed to the pandemic response. In case there is some provincial or federal funding that does come down, we have budget line items, or sorry, accounting line items that do track our costs very closely, that we can report time that has been attributed to the pandemic. Lastly, we anticipate the province transition to a recovery phase. We have started our preparations to ensure we are prepared when the provincial status changes and when the region and municipality are confident we can deliver service in a safe manner. With that being said, purchase of additional personal protective equipment was necessary, as well as some temporary and permanent changes to our facilities. So some temporary facility changes to note would include things like wall sanitizing mounts at all of our facilities, floor markings with directional arrows and safely social distance markings on the floors. And one permanent change to note is the installation of a glass partition at the front counter of Town Hall. This will allow for distancing, for protection from droplets, as well as serve as a safety feature even post-pandemic for our frontline staff. So in discussion with other local area municipalities, this type of partition is consistent with other town halls and was a common practice even prior to the pandemic. And one other thing that I would just like to note was the financial considerations outlined in here in terms of lost revenues. There is a side note, which I don't want to be lost in this report, where the penalty and interest lost ended at the end of May, which there will be one more month included, which is June, which we didn't have the actual figures as of yet. But the motion did include waiving penalty, and the motion that council had passed included waiving interest and penalty to the end of June as a tax relief or a measure to kind of assist with anyone that might be experiencing financial hardship during these times. So I haven't included it past those months, only because that's what the motion indicated. In speaking with other local area municipalities and their treasurers, I don't believe many municipalities will be recommending extending past, only because surprisingly we have experienced an incredible percentage of collection. So our collection rate is actually only down about 3% in comparison to last year. So, and we've only removed 2 to 3 people off of our pre-authorized payment plans, and we haven't had anyone reaching out saying that that they're unable to pay. So at this point, we feel that if anyone is having difficulties, they can reach out to us and we can try to work out an arrangement with them on a case-by-case basis. But in terms of a blanket solution, at this point, I don't feel that the need is there in our community specifically.
Thank you. So the motion on this is that the staff report ESR 18-2020 COVID-19 financial impact update number 2 be received for information. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councilor MacLellan and Councilor Van Vliet. And discussion, please. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the treasurer. Just a question and a comment. First, my question regarding salaries and benefits, just so I'm clear. Those figures are not where it says additional expenses. They're not additional to the normal salaries, like, i.e. it's not overtime or anything like that. It's simply a tracking mechanism that you're recording those numbers for us. Am I clear on that?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Gilmore. So yes, that's exactly correct. We just I kind of followed the format of the region, but basically they took the stance that anytime their staff are not doing what they were budgeted to be, the tasks they were budgeted to be performing, that we should track that. You're required to in an emergency response in case there is federal or provincial funding. If you can't prove that you incurred the costs, you're likely not to receive any funding to compensate for that. So that's one of the reasons. And B, also, when our staff, like we have a limited number of staff in comparison to some of our larger municipalities, but we're still dealing with the same types of safety protocols and everything else in terms of the pandemic and reporting requirements regarding that. So when our staff is focused on dealing with the pandemic, it's at an opportunity cost. They're not performing some of their daily duties. So there could be service delivery lags or I mean, so far we haven't experienced anything like that, but we have also internally implemented, we are really trying to kind of flex schedules to mitigate any overtime, because that's one of our cost containment measures that as at the staff level, we've really kind of committed to doing to try to keep costs low and maintain, to be financially responsible during the pandemic.
Okay, thank you. And my comment is regarding the first line in the notes, the investment interest loss, where, and you say likely to remain low. I totally concur with that, although I would take the word likely out and put in will remain low through 2020, 2021, 2022, and who knows how long after that, because thankfully, if it goes up, we're all in big trouble. So my advice would be recalculate that figure for the remainder of 2020 right off the bat, so that we know where that revenue, what that loss is going to be, because that situation, my opinion only, isn't going to change anytime soon.
Okay, Mallory?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Gilmore. So yeah, so in terms of budgeting, we tend to err on the conservative side in terms of our interest that we earn from our savings account. Any of our investments are locked in, they're secured investments, so we're not losing anything on our investments. This is just one of our savings accounts that we have, which we've been fortunate to be earning some interest on in the past months, just because of the economy. However, that wasn't always the case. So we didn't, since it fluctuates so much, we didn't increase our budget line item because of that. So we do still budget very conservative in terms of basically what the prime rate is in terms of our interest. So we won't really consider a loss. It's not a loss in terms of what we budgeted for. It's just what we were actually earning is definitely going to be down for, yes, at least the remainder of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councilor, thank you. Councilor MacLellan, you had a question, comment?
Yeah, just one question on keeping track of labor and that. So on our outside field staff, the guys that run the equipment and that, do they wash that, like, do they have hand sanitizer or Lysol wipes or something to spray and wash that down? And are you tracking a half hour a day for each of them, when they get in a truck, when they leave, so that if they don't come back tomorrow to the same machine or vehicle, the next guy gets in, he knows it's clean? Like, are we doing that? Because that's something we should be doing. I don't know if we are, and if you're keeping track of it, then that should be going towards that cost. If there is a reimbursement, we get some money, right? Just don't write it off or forget about it.
Go ahead, Mallory.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So yeah, so far we have adapted the policy where we have one public works employee per truck for social distancing and safety measures. So they are they're confident that they're the only person in that vehicle. Likely they're assigned to the same vehicles, but they are being cleaned. Any sanitizing products that are being purchased in terms of doing extra cleanings above and beyond what we would normally do are being allocated to our COVID GL lines. And I do believe that they are allocating a small portion of their day towards the cleaning of the vehicles, although be it a small portion because it's only one one person per truck. So it doesn't take them very long just at the end of their circle check or their vehicle that they have to do anyways. But it is, I mean, I'm not holding my breath that we'll receive funding from any other levels of government. However, if we do, we will have ample GL lines and backup to support what we have in those accounts in terms of our actual expenditures.
Yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
doing a good job right off the bat that we started recording everything, because the higher levels of government did come out and say that keep track of the COVID expenses and there will be potential for reimbursement. So we started that like day one, and our treasurer has done a really good job on that, and so that's all worked out. Whether that actually happens or not, we'll wait and see. But we're prepared on our end anyway. We've done our work the way we're supposed to, and if we have the opportunity to submit those funds for reimbursement, we're in a good position to do so. Okay, any other questions on that? Councilor Cridland?
Thank you, Mayor, through you to Treasurer. You just touched briefly on service levels. So maybe just even just repeating that I guess at this point residents shouldn't really be experiencing any lowering of service levels because of how the township's been able to manage so far. So we might be getting close to that, but at this point, the way we've been able to juggle and reserve and, and mark things and save for later, at this moment, residents, again, shouldn't be experiencing any loss of service. And if they are, that's just then normal for them to call in and say, the grass isn't this or the lawn, whatever is normal. Would that be a fair assessment of our service levels then?
Yeah, I think I'll look to our CAO for that one, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and again, I don't mean to step on the toes of the manager of corporate services, but you'll recall during earlier reports that we did talk about some cost containment efforts that the township has initiated, particularly with respect to some seasonal staff, which are normally hired in the spring and summer months. Those cost containment efforts are still in force and effect right now. Although, as you'll see in the upcoming report that from myself, that sort of identifies that we have been, I guess, managing our current staff to try and address the workload that the seasonal staff normally pick up. We're nearing a breaking point now in that the summer weather is, the spring and summer weather is approaching. And we are feeling the workload at this point in time. But at this stage, we believe we're on top of everything. If the members of the public or if there are areas that need addressing, they simply need to notify us at Town Hall, and we will be able to respond in fairly short order to deal with the situations. But the level of service is definitely a little lower now than it was in previous years because we have initiated the cost containment. But as I say, we are looking towards the future at having to perhaps re-engage some of those seasonal staff that we've been holding off on.
And we're having 2 EOC meetings a week right now. And that's a topic I've brought up at every one of them is we don't want to wait until it's too late. We want to try to read that crystal ball and know that, hey, in a week or two, we're going to be behind. So let's get things going now. So we've had that discussion probably the last 3 meetings. And because I don't want to get to the point where all of a sudden we're way behind. So we're looking ahead. We're talking with the staff. How's it going? I've had conversations with the grass cutting staff. Are we keeping up? And they're yeah, we're doing okay so far. But when everything is taken into account, we don't want to be suddenly stuck behind, which would be good because that would actually put us ahead of many municipalities in the region. So we're trying to look ahead and to know exactly when we need to execute and bring in those summer students and the rest of it. So it's we're very much alive to that, speaking about that at every EOC meeting. Any more conversation on this report? Okay, seeing none, the motion again was this report be received for information. And we have a mover seconder, so I'll call the vote. Councilor Gilmore,
In favor?
Councilor Cridland,
In favor?
Councilor MacLellan,
In favor?
and Councilor Van Vliet.
In favor.
And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, we now go to COVID impact report number 3, and we'll ask our CAO, Mr. Kolasa, to give an overview of that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. Well, as the mayor has indicated, and as our manager of corporate services have indicated, our emergency control group continues to meet regularly. We do have plans in place regarding reopening and resuming normal operations of the township if and when we are able to get the word from the province, the region, and the health authorities that it's safe and prudent to do so. The thing I'd point out is that the normal operations that we're going to be looking at in the future doesn't necessarily translate to the way we've always done things in the past. There is a new normal that we're going to have to be dealing with. And again, we've been planning for it, and we have our plans and implementation ideas ready to go. One of the things one of the key things that this report was hoping to introduce, we've just actually talked about, is the fact that time has progressed. We're into spring and summer is around the corner with weather improving, and we have historically retained seasonal staff to assist us through those operations. Now, this year, again, it's not a normal year. As was mentioned, a lot of the normal activities at parks and facilities have been either delayed or canceled for the year, unfortunately. So that means that what we've been doing is adjusting our workforce. We have been trying to maintain the service levels with less than what is a normal seasonal work staff volume. To date, we've been on top of that. But one of the things that we are seeing is that the better weather and the conditions that we're seeing, new challenges and things that we weren't expecting back when we started the cost containment efforts in the first place. So at this stage, I guess, as the mayor pointed out, we're just providing information and advice to council that when the time comes, we will slowly need to ramp up our seasonal work staff again, perhaps bringing in that one summer bylaw enforcement officer to be able to offset some of the additional efforts being undertaken by our current officer and the other members of staff that have been appointed by council to assist in enforcing bylaws. And likewise, some of our recreation field, seasonal field staff in parks and in cemeteries, who we've been able to accommodate the additional workload to date. But that said, the work is piling up, and we are having to deal with regular staff issues as well. So in the near future, we do anticipate moving on and again, slowly bringing those additional staff as required back into the workforce. That is, I believe, all that I really wanted to highlight, other than the last real stretch of good weather that we had. We did experience a number of complaints coming in regarding the area around Quarry Road and the NPCA Wainfleet Wetlands Conservation Area, the quarry. We will be doing, as a result of that, and in consultation with Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority and Niagara Regional Police, we will be doing additional enforcement and stepping up patrols of both our staff as well as Niagara Regional Police in the area to try and address some of the concerns that we had brought to our attention and some of the observations that we had after the last round of good weather. That pretty well concludes my report. If anyone has any questions, I will certainly try to address them.
Okay, first we'll get the motion in. Admin staff report ASR 19-2020 respecting COVID-19 impact report be received as information. Mover and seconder, please, for that. Councilor MacLellan and Councilor Van Vliet. And now discussion questions to our CAO. Councilor Van Vliet.
And through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, just a quick question about bylaw enforcement. We didn't hire any new people. We just moved people around. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct. And it isn't really even moving people around. Prior to the COVID situation occurring, members will recall that we did bring a bylaw that ended up appointing our fire chief and deputy fire chief as municipal bylaw enforcement officers. We appointed our manager of protective services as a municipal bylaw enforcement officer, and I believe our chief building official was also appointed. As each of those individuals have a certain role in the bylaw enforcement function in any event. So what they've been able to do is, or what we've been able to do, is to utilize them to sort of offset some of the additional workload that our single bylaw enforcement officer does. So no, we have not hired any new bylaw staff. We do have additional officers who have some additional bylaw duties associated with them, but it's more of a assistance role rather than a primary lead.
Thank you for that. And Councilor Van Vliet.
If I could continue, only because I drove down Quarry Road Sunday afternoon and it wasn't like really warm out, but it was quite sunny and it was packed down there, like this past Sunday. So is there numbers people should call, after hours number?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, and especially during this time of COVID and people assembling and all that sort of stuff, there is, during normal business hours, the number to call is the township offices at our normal number, which is area code 905-899 3463, which is the regular township number. And during normal business hours, we will take the complaint, route it to an officer and move on from there. In cases of after hours, which is after 4:30 p.m., the region of Niagara has a toll-free number that you can call that will be answered by a regional dispatch person. That number, I don't have it at my fingertips at the moment, but we'll make sure it's posted. Well, I know it is posted on our website. And the regional dispatcher will triage the call to determine whether it's a bylaw enforcement matter, which, for example, if it's a complaint about a fence or something, that would go to the bylaw officer in a sort of routine business type operation. But if it is something that needs immediate response, they will automatically tie that in to Niagara Regional Police, who will respond directly.
Thank you.
Yeah, that came, there's a couple things there I'll speak to. The word appointed in the media seemed to be interpreted as hired. I got a number of, couple emails on that, what are you doing, hiring more people, blah, blah, blah. And so I responded to those, hired, we simply appointed some more people and delegated duties amongst already employed people. So for some reason, appointed got interpreted as hired. We received a number of calls from, and it's been ongoing for a long time, but the traffic down there all along Quarry Road and everything. And so in discussion, we decided that we would be a little bit more aggressive about that. I mean, there's no parking signs and cars are parking and they're just basically flouting all the bylaws. So in discussion, we decided that we would start towing vehicles. It's in our bylaw, and the tickets aren't a deterrent. So there's nothing, I know from personal experience, there's nothing more difficult to deal with than your vehicle gets towed, especially if it's right in front of the no parking sign. And so we decided that the first thing we would do is a media blitz on that to let the public know as much as possible, which is what we've done. We've put out a few media releases. I see it's been picked up by all the papers, iHeartRadio and everything. So we're going to give them a little bit of time, and then we're going to start towing cars. And the public that lives down there, some of the emails are very, very clear about, we have bylaws, why aren't you doing anything about it? So I wasn't pleased with that. So we decided that it's time to start doing something about it, and it's in our bylaws. So that's how that came about. Councilor MacLellan?
Yeah, so my one thing is this whole Gord Harry Trail and the area that was the most poorly planned and implemented trail and park system that was ever put forward in the Niagara region. We have a trail that's got to be 12 or 13 miles long, and we have one parking lot that maybe holds 12 cars on Station Road. Like, what did they think we were going to do? Drop people in there by helicopter and pick them up and take them out? Like, there should be, but really, there should be a parking lot every second road that you can park and go there. Nobody's going to park at Station Road and walk the whole trail. Like, the MPCA has got to get on the ball and fix this up. They put it in there, and I mean, we tell people we have the Gord Harry Trail. It runs from Fort Erie to Dunnville. And then we say, oh, don't come here because we have no parking. People are cooped up in the house for the last 13, 12 weeks. They want to get out and get some fresh air. Like,
Yeah, and
public's part.
yeah, thank you. When we had the conversation about stepping up enforcement, we brought in the staff sergeant from Port Colborne, and we brought in the chair or CAO, I guess, of NPCA into the meeting. And that was one issue that we did say is there's not enough parking. She's aware of that, and they're looking at, doing what they can do. The use of the trails or everything right now are for local use, for passive use. And so I think, I shouldn't speak for what they're thinking, but it's mostly for people who just live right there in the area is what their intention is right now. Your points are completely valid because that's what people are doing. They're driving out, and unless you live 100 yards away, then you're going by car and getting on the trail. So we're more interested in Quarry Road. That's the big problem right now. And we're not restricting our heavier enforcement to that, but we're certainly going to start on Quarry Road. That's where the public has reached out to us in complaint. So it's Mr. CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. During the discussions, I've had the opportunity to pull up the phone numbers again. So again, we do have this on our website under our COVID page with external links, and the number to call during normal business hours, again, for the township is 905-899-3463. And after hours, that's after 4:30 p.m. or on weekends, the number to call is 905-984-3690 or 1-877-552-5579.
Thank you. Any more discussion? Councilor Cridland?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, and all the extra work that's being done. So what I think I'm sensing, a lot of this seasonal is just regular seasonal. So every spring, this would normally bubble up and we'd have a slightly different response plan. So I think maybe the residents in this area, we've worked so hard in this area over the last 2 years, I would say. So I'm hoping that, our pause is as short as it needs to be in terms of the savings and the flexibility and the things we're trying to do for COVID, and yet not jeopardizing or losing all the good work we've already done in this area. Particularly, it's a hot spot in spring. So, so thank you for the attention to this. Seeing it in the media, sends a good message that we are going to be serious. And I think the residents will be very pleased that this turns around quickly. So thanks for all those efforts.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, motion was that this be received for information. And I'll start with Councilor Van Vliet,
In favor.
Councilor MacLellan,
In favor.
Councilor Cridland,
In favor?
and Councilor Gilmore.
In favor.
And that is carried. We now move on to the fire staff report 008-2020. And I look for the chief to speak to that, please.
Good evening to the mayor and all members of council. This is an information report only, highlighting or reviewing the last or the first quarter of 2020. And so we'll kind of go through it. Starting off with human resources. As you may recall, on January 6th, we had our probationary firefighter graduation, as well as the community and firefighter recognition event, where we recognized the hard work of all the members, as well as the donations from our community partners. And we presented various firefighters and officers their certificates that they had earned throughout the year. We did have an officers meeting on February 5th. And then as always, we try to meet monthly to kind of review our current operational needs and any changes to be addressed if needed. We are still looking at the potential need for an officer at stations 1 and 4, but given the current roster and the span of control, it's not something that we're really going to go down that road just yet. Our recruits did start January 1st, and they've been very active in their recruit training program. And I've presented council the training schedule that they've conducted in the first 3 months. Due to COVID, we have had to amend that training schedule post-March. And as such, to kind of adjust for the practical end of training, we now have recruits that have hit the trucks as of June 1st. So that brings our total number of firefighters to 49 right now, which is an excellent accomplishment given the last 2 years. Our association met on January, again in February, but the March meeting was canceled due to COVID-19. And as you'll see there, our firefighters hockey team did win first place at the Division B Port Colborne Mayor's Cup. As you may recall, on January 21st, 2020, we did have a firefighter that was struck by a vehicle while operating on Highway 3 at an MDC. While that firefighter did sustain minor injuries, they did attend a local hospital for examination and was cleared. There was no lost time. The Ministry of Labor was contacted with no investigation. Our Fire Services Joint Health and Safety Committee did conduct an investigation, and recommendations was made to management for additional safety equipment and training, which has been completed to date. Part of that, we had to purchase some traffic cones, some stop sill paddles, and we also conducted training to the Ontario Traffic Manual Book 7, Appendix 1, or Appendix A, for temporary control measures. In fire prevention, we did manage to get some public education events in. We've done a joint video release with various regional partners, and they were released 1 week apart, March 10th, 17th, and 24th. So if you get an opportunity, go on YouTube and you can certainly check those videos out. We have conducted 2 fire inspections on properties. One was an assembly occupancy in the Wellandport area, and one was a residential occupancy based on request, and both were compliant with no recommendations or needs. Our call volume, we're currently operating at about 45 to 50% of our regular call volume. In the first 3 months, we only responded to 29 calls. And then as you can see on page, I believe it's page 4 of that report, you can see how that breaks down by call type. We have had some repairs required to some of the aging apparatus. As pumps continue to age, they require some repairs, and we're dealing with those as they come up. In other equipment, we did file for an application in November of 2019, and we were successful. Enbridge Gas ended up as part of a driver from the mayor at one of our emergency management conferences, made a contact with Enbridge, and they provided us with $7,500. So the officers met. We did a review of kind of the operational needs, and at the time, only or two stations had multi-gas meters. So the decision was made that we would price out five multi-gas meters and a calibration station. The total project there was about $9,000, and we were lucky enough that Walden Gardens donated the remaining $1,500 to cover that cost. So we're now able to say that all four stations, as well as the deputy chief's truck, has a 4-gas monitor for responding to gas line strikes, carbon monoxide calls, hazardous material spills, unknown odors, that kind of thing. So that's certainly helpful. In communications, as you may remember, there was a capital project in 2019 was our radio system. That did come with a 5-year warranty, and as issues arise with some of the technology, we continue to deal with those, and the vendor's been very gracious in assisting us through the warranty period. Regular maintenance continues, but for SCBA, but we are working on the RFP, but for that project, but it has been put on hold until we kind of know what the financial situation will be post COVID-19. But we will be still conducting our wear trials and kind of an assessment of what vendor, what make, model our firefighters would like to proceed with, so that way when it comes time for market, we have all of that legwork already done. Moving on to Section 4 training, we've been attempting to conduct regular weekly training. Due to COVID-19, we moved from practical close quarters training to virtual. We use Zoom, very similar to what we're doing right now, and we also have an online training portal called Resource One that has all of the NFPA certificate programs listed. So every Monday we meet and we conduct a post-incident analysis and review of any of the calls that we've responded to through that week. We identify our strengths and weaknesses, and that kind of helps develop the rest of our training program. So as you can see, we kind of listed some of the topics. Prior to COVID-19, we had done a couple of workshops and seminars, and we were working through having all of our members certified in the Working Mind, Road to Mental Readiness, Mental Health Resiliency training. We currently have about half of the staff complete. So once we're allowed to get groups of greater than 5 or 10, we hope to get the remaining 20 plus completed. Which leaves us to our priorities in Section 5. As always, we will continue to train. We're able to get as much as the theory portion done. So we will continue with our core services of hazmat operations, pump operations, and fire life safety educator. We also plan on, I failed to write that in there, but our officers, we will be working towards incident safety officer certifications for all of our officers. Continued maintenance and equipment will go. As you know, the disposal of the house and this fire station project was paused briefly for about a month and a half, 2 months. But the concept design direction that was provided by council at the last council meeting has been awarded to White Line Architects at St. Catharines, and they will be developing the concept design and construction cost estimates as requested. Again, our probationary, sorry for that. Our probationary firefighters, their training program ended a month early. And as I said, they are now, they're on the trucks and responding as they will finish out their probation until the end of 2020, at which point they will graduate and become a third-class firefighter. So certainly if there's any questions, I'm open to them.
Okay, so let's start with the motion. The fire staff report FSR 008-2020 respecting 2020 first quarter fire and emergency services review be received for information. A mover seconder, please. Councilor MacLellan, seconded by Councilor Gilmore. And now questions, comments, please. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, the chief. I just want to come back to SCBA for a minute. Your comment about uncertainty around COVID-19. I mean, my recollection of that long discussion was that's something we had to have. I'm not sure why that's being delayed over some level of uncertainty when the money was going to be debentured anyway. If we're going to borrow the whole thing, actually, it's probably a good time to do that. If we don't need it, that's a different discussion, but that was not what was presented. So I'm just confused why we're holding off on that.
Certainly it is in fact needed. And a lot of the legwork is still being conducted, but I believe the treasurer wanted to speak to that.
Jeez.
Pulled to Richard. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to all of council. So it definitely is needed, and it was a difficult decision for us to kind of postpone that in terms of COVID, and it was done strictly. It is planned to be debentured, but the region's debenture schedule they're having some challenges as well, so we wouldn't be able to get funds until closer to the end of the year. And with the price tag being $400,000, like no matter which way we propose to fund that from, it's a cash flow thing. We would have to put up the $400,000 upfront in terms of cash. So we were kind of just waiting to see what our collection rates would be. So once we know what our collection rates will be after the July 30, once we stop the waiver of penalty, and once we have our first final due date due, then we'll have a better idea of what our cash flow will look like in terms of if residents are sustaining long-term financial hardship, or if everyone is still kind of being able to pay as we've experienced up to this point, at which point then we would reconsider this decision and move forward at that point.
Okay, thank you. Any more comment from that discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote here, and I'll start with Councilor Cridland. If to receive this. Councilor MacLellan.
In favor.
Councilor Gilmore.
In favor.
Councilor Van Vliet. Councilor Cridland.
In favor.
And we're just looking for Councilor Van Vliet. We've lost her.
She's fallen off my screen.
Yeah, I've lost her too.
Donna just disappeared too.
Yeah. So Will showed up and Meredith showed up, but Sherry and Don.
I had a pop-up on the next meeting, the closed session, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Councilor,
I did too and hit it. Yeah.
Okay, just Councilor Van Vliet.
Am I back?
Yes, you are. In favor or opposed?
What am I voting on? Sorry, my screen went black.
It's the chief's first quarter review.
Oh, I did have one question, Chief.
We've already okay. When did we lose you though? I called for any more questions. Nobody said anything, and then we started the vote. So it's already been passed.
Okay.
Meredith says it's okay to let her take it.
Okay, Meredith? Okay, go ahead. That's good. I like that.
Quick question. I just wanted to know, because you can't fundraise, is that going to be a problem? Like, are you going to be losing a lot of money?
From the association perspective?
Yes, like your fish fries and boot drives and all that.
I can't really speak to the finances of the association. That'll be something that can be directed to the executive. But as far as I know, there was sufficient funds to get them through the year. And we are looking at alternative measures to see if there's anything we can do to kind of assist the community in an alternative manner.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have 3 in favor, and I'm just looking to Councilor Van Vliet.
In favor.
And thank you, and that is carried. Okay, move on to the Public Works report. And I think we'll look to our operations manager to speak to that, please.
Thank you, Worship. This report is respecting Regional Canada Day celebration with all municipalities participating. As you know, all municipalities have made the tough decisions to cancel pretty much every group event that's taking place this summer. This event is actually being spearheaded by the Recreation and Special Events coordinators across the region in all different municipalities. We've gathered several times now to discuss the potential of this region-wide Canada Day virtual celebration. And some of the groups, as you see further down, have gotten some funding, grant funding as well to help subsidize this. But the objective basically was to engage all Niagara residents as a whole and to encourage them to recognize successful coalition between all municipalities working together in the region, especially to share messages from the various mayors in different occasions, as well as to share a message of hope for 2020 as we go through this COVID crisis. We began partnership with other local industries, the media, talent, to assist us in this project as well. And we've leveraged, obviously, grant dollars from the Canadian Heritage Celebration Canada Fund, which was successful. Our municipalities of St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, Thorold, Pelham, Lincoln, and West Lincoln all received a portion of that fund money that they're putting towards this project as well. I've listed some of the showtime. It's a basic proposed program that we were trying to schedule for the event. The Township of Wainfleet will be featured in drone footage, which was taken during the mayor's evening out with the Light of Hope. There was a drone flying around various areas of the township, and they took some footage, and some of that footage will be used in the virtual programming. There will be a message from the mayor, which we will have to record probably by the end of the week, and it'll be a flag handoff ceremony, basically. So all the mayors in the municipalities will be basically handing a flag to each other virtually across, and with a message as well from each mayor. And also, I'd like to, and it was really good because today I finally got the announcement of some of the performers. And one of the great things is Great Lake Swimmers, which is a group out of Wainfleet, has been selected as one of the 4 performers as well to be featured on this regional performance. So there will be various areas that we will get some benefit from as far as exposure of Wainfleet. So at this point, you can see we prepared a tentative budget based on some estimates from the recording people as well as the performers themselves, and a basic outline of what some of the other municipalities have committed money to, because some municipalities have money put aside and they're good to go with expending those monies, whereas others like us have basically put a lot of expenditures on hold due to COVID and canceled our events. So we felt it best, like I did not commit anything on behalf of Township of Wainfleet, but I'm suggesting we do participate because we do have a performer now that is going to participate in the event, and get some benefit from us. The other portion that we planned on doing in-house, as you know, a lot of things we're presenting right now, Carrie from the library is doing quite well on her videoing and their performances at the library. She's agreed to help us put together a Wainfleet event as well that we'll be posting on our website. And again, we'd like to focus in on an artist, a local artist to perform. And that artist locally will be the ones that we actually had planned for our Canada Day celebration. And I can't remember the name of the band, it slips my, but it's Paul Wainwright, Luke Martindale, and I think Chris Putman, local guys, and they were planning on joining us at this year's celebration. But due to the cancellation, we thought, this is a perfect opportunity to get them on our Wainfleet celebration that we're putting together for our Wainfleet residents and to put on our website as well.
Thank you, Richard. So the motion is Public Works Staff Report PWSR 004-2020 respecting Regional Canada Day celebration be received. And that council directs staff to notify the committee of the intention to participate in the Region Canada celebration and a financial commitment of $1,000 to assist in the preparation of the event. And that council approve the expenditure of $150 for the in-house production of a local Wainfleet Canada Day virtual presentation. Can I have a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor, please, for discussion? Councilor MacLellan, seconded by Councilor Cridland. Okay, discussion, please. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Richard. Richard, do you know what the total budget expenditure is at the region level for this this event?
Through your worship to Alderman Gilmore, the region themselves are not participating in the funding of it. It's all the municipalities in the region that are putting this together. It's all the 12 municipalities, but the region themselves, they're assisting us where they can, but they are actually not part of the municipal Canada Day celebration.
Okay, so the figure at the bottom of the tentative budget of basically $60,000. That's the number that is going to be spent on this.
Through your worship to Alderman Gilmore, we're actually anticipating somewhere around 35,000 as our quotes are coming in, and we're still trying to finalize. But the production itself, as well as the performers, because some of the performers that they are actually paid performing artists that we have to pay for. Between that, advertising, etc., we're anticipating around 35,000. So some of the groups have anticipated funding and have gotten government grants. But again, so they've committed to some large funds because they do have a grant program, which is great because Canada has provided that for them. But again, as far as our local municipality, it'd be nice if we, the whole idea is to have all municipalities participate, some portion of it to help offset some of the costs because some of the grant money that they've received, they are putting together their own municipal Canada Day messaging as well that they'll be recording and spending money on as well.
And just originally, just so everybody's refreshed, our original budget deliberations for Canada Day were $12,500. So that's what we had set aside for. Councilor MacLellan?
Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask is what, I couldn't find it here. I read it somewhere, but I was going to ask what we had originally budgeted for. And I mean, this seems $1,000 or $1,150 combined. It seems fairly inexpensive. And were the donations, I'm guessing, that were to go to the Fall Fair and the Heritage Festival aren't going out this year. So we're saving money on those ones as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on that? Councilor Cridland?
I think my mic's on. Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I just want to highlight one on page 2. I was really happy to see that the project is looking at showcasing this virtual experience in a way that tries to have better access in rural parts of Niagara. So I'm just double checking that our hotspots still up and working and will be working full out on that evening should people wish to partake and they don't have the proper bandwidth, etc. And I don't know if there's talk of another spot somewhere in the area just to make sure that we can all experience and benefit that evening. So again, it looks very reasonable in terms of the dollars that I can see in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And that is one of our struggles, of course, is the bandwidth. But there's quite a lot of movement afoot on that internet providing in rural areas, Southern Ontario. And I know we've had 3 come to us. So that's going to be, if it's not already remedied, I know, I mean, just in December, I went from 0 to lots of internet myself. So lots of people are getting service now. So I'm guessing within a year and a half, everyone will have high speed here. So, but for this event here, we'll do the best we can, and hopefully it works out. So Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, motion's been read, and Councilor MacLellan,
In favor.
Councilor Cridland,
In favor?
Councilor Gilmore,
In favor.
and Councilor Wainfleet.
In favor.
Okay, and that is carried. Thank you. Okay, and moving into correspondence. And we have one item here included. C-142 2020, correspondence received from Wainfleet resident Sean Brenda re speed and manner of driving on Quarry Road. And open that up to any discussion on that. And that's exactly the sort of letter and information that we've received a number of these, not a whole lot, but we have, and last year we received a number. And that's exactly the reason why we steered ourselves in the direction of a stronger level of enforcement on Quarry Road and other associated roads. So Councilor Wainfleet.
I don't think this is just solely about Quarry Road. I mean, I live on a gravel road, and we have seen the number of vehicles go up and down our road. Like, we don't understand where all these people are coming from or where they're going to. So I don't think it's exclusively Quarry Road. I'm just pointing that out. Like, I can watch them go down my road and then up the next road just west of me. And people are just out wandering around at crazy speeds.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, because that is accurate. I received a call yesterday about Highway 3, and I've had calls in different areas as well. So just we're speaking about Quarry Road because that's been the one that's been front and center. But since I've been the mayor, I've received emails about all sorts of areas of Wainfleet, Wilford Road, Highway 3. The feeder, of course, is a bit of a raceway sometimes. So. And I've had sit downs with the staff over in Port Colborne and addressed it with him. There is that number to call for Niagara Regional Police for any and all traffic concerns, violations that you see. The bottom line is there's so much area to speed in, and there's only so many officers to get out, and you know they're there for 10 minutes and they got to go somewhere else, and then you know it happens. So, but we're starting to try to get some enforcement done and start to get some vehicles slowed down. Surprisingly, just about every mayor, the number one concern that they always hear is speeding, and that's it. We hear about speeding more than anything else. So it is something that needs to be addressed here even more. Councilor MacLellan?
Yeah, so there's a couple of questions I have here, and one's a comment. So one question is, I thought we put in the budget for one of the speed radars that would tell you what your traveler speed is. Have we done anything with that? Have we purchased one? I know the region had a bunch of them. Is that something we could even borrow in the meantime to put on some of these streets to put it up? What happened there?
To Richard for that, please. Or William?
Through Mr. Mayor, as I see that Mr. Nan is still on hold, that was one of our cost containment efforts, as with a whole bunch of other capital projects. So those are, as indicated by the treasurer, one of the things that we've been holding off on is waiting to get a better grasp of the sort of financial situation of the township, which most likely will be much clearer again after the first installment of the final tax bills. The end of July, we'll be in a much better place to be able to proceed with those capital projects. So those are pending. But that said, we've also identified some alternative traffic calming measures that are being implemented across the province and across the region. And we're also exploring those in addition to the radar type signs. So those are all coming within the next little while.
And just on those extra devices, I ran into them last weekend on a long straight piece of road, and you had to slow down to about 20 kilometers an hour to go through these things. And they were in a different municipality altogether, and I know the region's using them as well. they're very effective. And so I've asked the staff to start to explore that and look at the liability and look at the cost to purchase and just come back to us with a report. And if I'm able, I'll send you, the councilors, just a photo of what I took there, and you can have a look at it. Councilor MacLellan, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so my other comment is then everybody's, or a great deal of people are unemployed right now or working from home, and they have more time at home. They're watching what's going on. There's more people that have free time that are driving around. We are considered an essential service. We're on the road. The people that speed on, it doesn't matter where you are now, the QEW, the 406, Highway 58, it's like you're at the Indianapolis racetrack. And I mean, I am not a slow driver by any means. And I got people passing me on 58 and they're going by like I was standing still. You know, it's just, there's less traffic on the road, so people think they can drive faster. And there's more people at home that are out driving around. And it's just, it's a problem everywhere right now.
Yeah, as I say, when there was questions to the mayors, and every mayor said number one problem that they hear about is speeding. So I don't know what the solution is, but I know we've got some ideas here we're going to look into. So
yeah, and I mean, one of the other things is, if I look out my window while we've been on this, I've probably seen 4 different groups of neighbors walking down my street because they can't go anywhere. You know, that all kind of ties to the trail as well. You get sick of walking around the same block twice a day, so they want to go somewhere else and see something different. But it's you know, you're stuck in a house. You got to get out and move. And then people are driving fast, and we don't have sidewalks, so they pay attention a little more.
okay, so Councilor Gilmore.
I just want to pick up through you, Mayor, to John's first point about the signs. Like, if we're going to wait till the end of July to figure out whether we can afford $8,000 for a sign, the time we get it, the summer is going to be over. At some point, we got to figure out, we got to apply, you know, a little bit of common sense to this whole situation. I mean, we're not talking about spending multi-tens of thousands of dollars on these signs. We need them in certain spots, which is why we said to get them. Just get them. This too shall pass. Like, I don't know. I'm very frustrated with the whole thing, like most people. But just to throw a blanket over everything because of COVID and not do anything is ridiculous. And we might as well put it in next year's budget, because if we get it after the summer's over, then most of the problem is gone. Like you're gonna have to just have a look at stuff and make some decisions about, you know, you got all the money, and the money we were gonna spend on Canada Day to buy the sign. So buy the sign. Like, well, let's get on with some stuff.
Yeah, I thought that we had given that direction, or we were already on that road, and then I haven't paid attention to that. So it's a good point. William.
Oops. Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry about that. One of the other things that we have tried to take into account when pursuing purchasing of these types of things is some of these businesses were also shut down as a result of provincial orders, and some of them are just ramping up again now with respect to production. So whereas some things we wanted to buy, we haven't been able to because the suppliers have not been open to sell them to us. So I guess at this stage, based on the discussions, based on all the reopenings that are happening, we will certainly proceed with investigating getting those in as quickly as we can. Again, I think the enforcement issues that we've had arise over the last 2 weeks as the weather has improved, has brought this to the forefront. So we can certainly follow up with those as early as tomorrow to get things going.
Councilor MacLellan.
tend to agree with Councilor Gilmore, and one of the thoughts is some of the money that we were gonna donate this year that isn't gonna happen. Maybe we should just buy 2 of them. And when you're buying them, ask them for 90 days on the payment. And if these guys were closed down, they're hurting, they'll be glad to make the sale and get the money coming at them, even 60 or 90 days late. Buy 2 of them and let's get done with it.
What was the original? I don't recall. Wasn't it 4-2 that we said right off, if I remember? Yeah, so I mean, we're just carrying on with the direction that we gave council 6 months ago or whatever, so. And once staff comes back with this report of this this little system I saw, extremely effective, and we'll have a look at that. And I was very impressed by it. So well, I'd like to look at that as well. So because that really, really does work.
Could you send a picture?
Pardon me?
Could you send some pictures to us?
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I went through it myself in another north of Toronto or west of Toronto, east of Toronto. And it was like slow down to 20 kilometers and everybody was doing it. It was fantastic. And so I'll send those pictures out.
Great.
Councilor Cridland, did you have a question?
Well, I thank you. I was just going for my mic, but again, I'm liking the discussion. I think we're all on the same page. Thank you for this person writing. It's sort of capturing, you know, where we're all at right now. So I would be ready to make the motion to receive the letter if that would be next on the list.
Okay, well, we can do that. So Councilor Cridland is making that motion. Seconder for that, please. Councilor MacLellan. Any other discussion on that? Okay, and recorded vote then. Councilor MacLellan received the letter. Councilor Cridland.
In favor?
Councilor Gilmore.
Favor.
And Councilor Van Vliet.
In favor.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the bylaws. Okay, that bylaw 25/2020, that bylaw number 25 being a bylaw to establish estimates and tax rates for the year 2020 be read and passed the second day of June 2020. Mover and a seconder, please. Councilor MacLellan and seconded by Councilor Van Vliet. Any discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. Councilor Van Vliet,
In favor.
Councilor Gilmore,
Favor.
Councilor Cridland,
In favor?
and Councilor MacLellan.
In favor.
And that is carried. Are there any notices of motion this evening? Okay, seeing none, then read the motion. Council now move into closed session to discuss A, items under section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act 2001, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. 2 items, matters pertaining to potential disposition of land. And B, minutes of the closed meeting of council held March 10th, 2020 and April 21st, 2020. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councilor Van Vliet, Councilor MacLellan. Any discussion on moving into closed session? I see none. Councilor Van Vliet,
Yes.
in favor?
In favor.
Councilor Gilmore, sorry.
In favor.
Councilor Cridland
In favor?
and Councilor MacLellan.
In favor.
And that's carried. We'll move into closed session. And there is another Zoom in for that. So we'll all hang up from this one and we give ourselves 5 minutes, and unless somebody needs more time, we'll come back in 5 minutes.